Good morning. It's taking forever to get my computer to work. And I'm not using a headset, of course, so let me know if the sound is low or weird at all. There are so many things I like about Facebook Lives, and also the reverse camera image is really still so disruptive and disturbing. Okay, so I'm just going to dive right in here today. I love week 2 of this book, but let me talk about a couple of other things first. So if you're still having trouble with the breathing processes making you lightheaded, try slowing down the pace and also download those MP3s and find the speed. There's 3 different speeds. Find the speed that works. You will probably still get some lightheaded and some tingling fingers and things like that until you get used to it. Hey there. But if you're getting very lightheaded, slow your pace down or go shorter periods of time. You might only be able to go 2 or 3 minutes, but typically that's happening is we're trying to go too fast. We're not really breathing with our natural, our normal rhythm. Because we're conscious that we're doing a breathing practice, we breathe weird and we can end up feeling not so great. Also, if you're a person that doesn't spend much time in the body, breath work brings you into the body quickly, and that can feel disruptive. So, the book really stresses not to stop. And I agree with that. But if you're not to stop last 3 minutes, then that just is what it is. And you'll have to practice more and get used to what that feels like. And also be aware that breath work can trigger fear because it's so unfamiliar and it feels strange. But I promise you're not going to die, even if you get lightheaded or even if your hands tingle. Even if you feel like you're going to pass out, maybe you will pass out, but you won't die from it. It's not life-threatening to over-oxygenate your blood. What can happen is you can hyperventilate and get your blood, your O2 and CO2 ratio off, but usually that's what's triggering all the yawning. Your body's receiving a different mix, like an engine. It's got a different mix of different fuel mix coming in, and so yawning is your body's way of balancing your CO2 O2 levels. So if you're doing a lot of yawning, don't worry about that either. Just go back to breathing as soon as you can. Okay, what I love about chapter 2 is how he explains that we don't have to do something with the emotions that come up. And Esther Hicks describes it as you don't go to school to learn the law of gravity. You know it because you can experience it. And when we understand law of attraction outside of the hoopla and the get me lots of money and a fancy car stuff, you can demonstrate law of attraction too. Good morning. So this is kind of law of attraction-ish, this life is a mirror thing, because we won't perceive anything outside of our worldview lens. That's why people with white privilege can't see it until they become educated about it. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. You see it then forever. I did not understand white privilege until I was in graduate school and got educated on it. And then I was like, oh yeah, you can be poor, you can have a rough life, you can go through a lot of stuff, but if you're white, there is privilege and stuff that comes with that that's very hard to see because we are the ones benefiting from it, and so we don't see it. And then it makes it hard to have empathy for other people. However, that's a different topic. Week 2's mantra is I recognize my reflections and projections. So this is directly related to the videos in the course with that are labeled life as a mirror. There's one for positive and one for negative. Because what you see that you don't like is yours. You spot it, you got it. That's the old saying. If you see it and you haven't, let's add a layer to that, a refinement to that. If you spot it and have an emotional reaction to it, it's yours. Positive or negative. If you see someone that you just admire the shit out of, that's yours too. If you see someone who aggravates the hell out of you, that's yours too. Key factor is the emotional response. You might see people engaging with behaviors that used to trigger you, and they don't trigger you anymore. Then you know you're done with it. You remove the emotional charge of it, so you don't have to worry about it anymore. But as long as you're having even a little bit of emotional reaction to it, it's in your system. It's a direct reflection of that. And I have never found any way to poke a hole in that theory. And I'm a skeptic, so anything I run across, I do try to poke holes in and test it out and see if it actually works or if it actually has value. And the life is a mirror stuff, I've never been able to poke a hole in. So I'm going to go with saying that that's a valid theory that you can prove to yourself. Jung talked about it a lot. Gestalt therapy talks about it. It's everywhere. Everywhere. So week 2, I recognize my reflections and projections. When you do the video A Day Without Labels, you can find a shit ton of projections. When you do the Facebook or social media treasure hunt, that's how you find your projections. Our projections are our blind spots. We have a very hard time seeing them because they're such a part of who we are until we start to learn to create some separation between our narrative border collie brain and our wiser, still small voice self. Until we start to recognize all the selves that we have, and which we can't do without some objectivity. So those exercises are designed to awaken you, to kind of shock your brain and make you aware of the things that you're thinking on a daily basis that you're not, are keeping you stuck and keeping you asleep. One of my intentions when I was creating Shadow Blessings, all those videos, is to wake you up, to shock your brain, to make you see, help you see, thunk you right on the forehead and say, look, you're doing this thing and you don't even know it. So wake up. Shadow Blessings. Wake the fuck up. That's the subtitle. Okay, so he describes it as you don't have to teach water to flow to the ground. If someone pours water over you, it flows to the ground. All water runs to the ocean. It doesn't have to be given a map or GPS coordinates to find its way to the ocean. It is a law. It's a natural process. In the same way, as you're doing this breathing process and it's bringing up emotions, you don't need to do anything with them. They don't need to be tinkered with. They don't have to be explored. You don't have to grab them and go into why, where did this come from? How come I feel like this? Or when you think of a person it's related to, you don't have to grab onto that and start spinning lots of stories, new stories, or slip right into the old groove of old stories. The key part of this and the whole Shadow Blessings course is just to recognize that these emotions are energies, and if you will stay in touch with breathing, even if you're not doing the breathing perfectly, even if you're just taking deep breaths and you still have a gap, you're going to help these emotions transform. They're going to flow to the ocean. They're going to flow right back to the oneness. They're going to transform into just another feeling, sensation of energy. Too often we get scared and we want to fix it. We want to find out where it came from and why we are having that feeling. That's completely unnecessary, and that is a way that we stay stuck because of that exploratory nature of our mind and our problem-solving brain, which is good. We need that. We need problem-solving brains. But when it comes to moving old stuck energy and old stuck emotions, it really is even more than a roadblock. It can really just keep us stuck on the road and we can't move, and maybe sometimes send us backwards, back where we've already traveled. So the breath is mentioned in every text on the planet that has anything to do with your inner world. The breath, 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 breathing, conscious breathing. Of course, we're breathing all day long, but consciously breathing, deepening your breath, being willing to go into the feeling rather than hold it at bay, and being willing to go into the holding it at bay part. If you can't go directly into the feeling, you can go into the resistance to feeling the feeling. This is the shit between you and it and your goals. You set your goal and all this shit comes up, right? Course in Miracles says that love brings up everything unlike itself. The more you connect and experience your source, your God, your sense and felt awareness of spirit, the more this stuff is going to come up, because it's stuck, it's stagnant, it's not flowing, and we are made to flow. We're supposed to be in motion, fluid, flowing all the time, and we get stuck in these spots. And he talks about it, and this is true in my experience. We get really stuck when we're under 7 years old. We don't have the mental capacity to reason. We're just wide open to the world, and we're wolves, and we're raised by wolves, and we hurt each other a lot, and terrible things happen, and abuse and poverty and simple mistakes happen that can't be interpreted by your little baby pea brain. So you have to wake up to this stuff, and then your adult pea brain gets a chance to back up and look at the big picture. Like, were those people trying to shut you down, or were you crying and they didn't know what to do and they panicked and did some things to make you shut up? When you were talking about seeing angels, were they deliberately being mean, trying to shut you up, or was it scary for them and they didn't understand it and they didn't want you to go out in public and say that stuff and potentially get hurt, so they told you it was all ridiculous and shut you down? It's very rare, so rare, that even a person who ends up in the criminal justice system for child abuse woke up that morning with the intent to hurt their children. That's generally not how it happens. There are psychopaths, there are sociopaths, there are antisocial social personality disorders and narcissist disorders and things like that, and they can be sadistic, because they're dicks, but that's a very small percentage of the population. Our current headlines would have us believe that everyone's a narcissist or a psychopath, but that's actually only about 5% of the population. Think about that. Only about 5% of the entire population has sadistic intent when they're being abusive. That means I can pretty much with 99% certainty say that whatever injuries the adults around caused you were not intentional. They were done, they happened in reaction to their own projections and reflections and things like that. So, and like I say all the time, there's still injury there that has to be handled, has to have something done with it. And the done with it is breathing and creating space and expanding for it. So the example I always use, and I know a lot of you have heard it already, but is if you and I are standing cooking a meal at a hot stove and have some traffic, I bump a pot and spill hot liquid all over you that burns you. Of course I didn't mean to. It was, I don't know what that is. I didn't mean to do that. It was an accident. I lost my balance and I knocked some hot stuff on you. And although it was not intentional, there was an injury created that has to be dealt with. So it's not that you weren't injured. You were injured. But we can get stuck and feel really victimized for a long period of time decades, our whole life, if we get stuck on the you hurt me part rather than I've got to burn and what can I do about it. So this is really talking about the shift to deep personal responsibility. That fucker cut me off in traffic. I'm going to spend less time thinking about that fucker and more time thinking about why did that trigger me? Did it impact my sense of entitlement? Did it remind me of all the times that other older white men either abused me or cut me off or stopped me from progressing in my career or all the other things? Because I have a real trigger still around older white men. And I live in the South where older white men demonstrate those characteristics almost on a daily basis. They'll cut right in front of you. Like, I still have a thing. The entitlement. So then I have to look at that. Whenever I cross one of their paths and they do something that's entitled, I have to look at that. I've had to work with Heath on that a lot because I can be working in the kitchen and he needs to get to the sink and he just comes in. He doesn't think to ask, and it's not intentionally being mean. It's that he has a mindset that if he needs something, he can have it. And if I happen to be in the way, he doesn't even register that I'm there. He just goes straight for the sink. And I'm like, hello, I'm standing here. And then he's like, oh, I'm like, yeah, I'm not invisible. So anytime your spouse is the perfect reflector, right? Because you're right there, your kids will reflect to you. So every time this happens and you feel that emotion this week, say, I recognize that's a reflection. And my emotional response to it is the projection. It's the thing that I'm adding to it. It's the story that I'm layering on top of the incident. Another shadow blessing video that addresses this is put the period at the end where it belongs. My husband bumped me out of the way to get to the sink, period. My story is I'm invisible. You're an asshole. Like all the stuff that comes up. That's my projection piece. Because I don't know what his intent was in that moment. Because I haven't asked him. I've just gone straight to reaction. That's a really important part of this chapter. This whole chapter is really important and fits right in with most, if not all, of the videos that you have available to you on the master list. It's on the file section. And they're short. So if you haven't watched them all, try to watch one every day. Don't try to do the exercise every day, but try to watch one at some point during the day just to start planting seeds. And even just watching them is an energy activation, so it will shift and start to move things. As we know, when you plant a seed and the seed sprouts, the roots start to disrupt the dirt. And plant roots go in and shift and move and break up even rocks sometimes. So that's what you're doing when you're just watching them and not doing the exercise because it's too much right now or whatever. You're still planting that seed. You're still growing little roots around those stuck places. He says there's no exception to this rule. Whenever anything happens that upsets us emotionally, whether it appears as an event or as another person's behavior, we are experiencing a reflection of our past. If we didn't have negative experiences, so I'll use my example. If I didn't have negative experiences with older white males, the things that they do wouldn't register. The fact that they register and create an emotional reaction in me, that's what lets me know. That's how you tell where your stuff is. So we look outward to identify where our stuff is, and then we take that information and we take personal responsibility 100% to deal with our reaction to it, our response. Then we start to respond to life rather than react to it. We'll get to that. Whenever we react physically, mentally, and emotionally to experiences, we are projecting as a direct consequence, a direct result of seeing that reflection. Byron Katie talks about this. There's absolutely nothing on the planet that the work that she does at thework.com can't shift. And there's, I think, 2 Byron Katie videos in your list there, in our list. When we are emotionally upset by anything, we're actively remembering something unconsciously hidden from us until this moment. We react to it by projecting, by behaving as a victim or a victor. Let's see. We tend to be transfixed by the things going on around us rather than keeping our focus on our response to the things going on around us. So our human normal tendency is to remain focused on what the other is doing. What are the politicians doing today? What are the neighbors doing today? What has our spouse done today that's pissed us off or sent us, into an aggravated space? Whereas we need to be bouncing between the two, aware of the outside, registering when we have a reaction, and then taking that information and focusing on the inside. Is that making sense? Okay. So here's where the breathing really, really helps you. The surfacing memory isn't something physical that we can point to. We can't show where the hurt is with, we can say I have a feeling in my heart, but we can't physically pick it up and see it. And so you really are blind in the sense that this is pure emotion. And if it was pre-verbal, you won't have any language to describe it. And the more you try to describe it, the more you distance yourself from it, and the more then it becomes a mind game. This is why people can stay in therapy for years and still have an emotional trigger. This is why EMDR works so well, because it goes below language right to the body. So when I was doing EMDR, if a person, there's anecdotes out there that if people are moving their feet a lot and feet and hands a lot, then they're accessing pre-verbal infant, like 0 to 3 years old, emotional responses. And in EMDR or tapping, that's why EFT works for some people, you aren't trying to put language on it. The more you can leave language out of it and stick with the breathing, the faster that energy is going to shift, and the faster you'll find that you can cross paths with people who used to aggravate you, and you won't even notice them. You'll notice them, and you'll notice you're not reacting. And then later, you don't even notice that they're there. They just don't register. It's purely felt perception. The memory is an energetic echo we perceive through feeling. This is why we don't say, I do upset or I think upset. We say, I feel upset. He calls the triggering event a messenger. And I really like that. It's not someone trying to hurt you. It's not someone trying to ruin your day. Again, 98% of the time, it's not intentional, an intent to create harm in you. It's a message that you have old harm there that is being reflected by the person or situation in front of you for today. When you think of it as a messenger, then you can stop getting mad at your spouse and getting stuck in thinking that they're a dick or an asshole or a douchebag or whatever horrible names that we say. Oh, I'm not the only one that does that, right? I'm not the only one that thinks that my ex-husband is a dick. So messenger, it's just a message. Some jerk in a big truck cuts me off on the highway. It's a message. It's not about him. Somebody doesn't pay their bill. If I react to it, it's a message. It's not someone trying to ruin my life, or it's not I can find another way to get groceries that day. It's not a thing unless I make it a thing. And if I'm making it a thing, then I know that I have a thorn. Michael, who wrote The Untethered Soul. Michael Singer calls it a thorn. It's something, it's a message, it's a thorn, it's a thing, it's a trigger, it's a reflection. So presence is the cure to all of that, and we access presence through our conscious breath work. Unconscious memory activation through the use of messengers is an integral part of the presence process. The more present you are, the more awake you become. The more awake you become, the less you can close your eyes to the way other people trigger you, other people and situations. So I've had waves and waves of fear coming up. Fear, 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 fear. All my business dried up. The month of May was the financially worst month I've had in a while. I'm going to say like 8 months, maybe longer than that. But it was so not present, like financially it wasn't coming in. And it really freaked me out because, of course, things are breaking as life still happens. Bills come up, cars break, you have to do certain things, and it's been a major messenger for me. And I spent a lot of May feeling really upset, like I couldn't figure out what was going wrong. So I spent far too much time worried about my marketing, and it's not wasted time because it has led me to a greater degree of clarity. In a class I'm taking with Dana Wilde has led me to even more clarity. And I'm not talking about taking an objective look at your marketing and figuring out what's up. I'm talking about taking a look at your marketing out of a place of fear, not out of a place of, oh, my ad's not getting responses. Oh, my posts are not getting responses. But when there's emotional trigger to that, then it's not an objective look at your marketing. It's a out there experience. I'm not making money. I have things to pay for, and I'm spending all my energy focused out here, out there, where all the stuff is, rather than breathing through the fear that the money drying up triggers in me. You see the difference? The money can dry up, and I can be objective about it and just keep looking for a job, which is what I'm doing. But I have been looking for a job out of fear. The emotion is the key, and the presence, activating presence and using the breath to activate presence in your body is the only solution. Okay? It really is the only solution that I've been working with people professionally for 22 years this year. And breath and presence and allowing emotion is the only thing in all these years I've ever seen to work long term. Okay, so the piece that I really want to draw your attention to is on page 146. If you got nothing else out of this 10 weeks that we're doing together, if you get absolutely nothing out of all the 40-something videos that you watch on Shadow Blessings, if you understand this section, you're going to be set for life. If you understand that breathing into your tension, feeling that tension and immediately starting to deep breathe, if you have no other skill than that, that is all you need. Because you don't have to, this is not an intellectual thing. No degree can give you this. No book can give you this. Only when you're willing to sit with your own feelings and breathe into them without trying to fix or change them. Trusting that they know their way back to the ocean. You're set for life. I'm not even exaggerating. I'm prone to exaggeration. That's why I feel like I have to say that. I'm Irish. I can't help it. Okay, page 146. To react to the people and circumstances that are emotionally triggering us, to project onto them, to blame the person in front of us or the situation, is to shoot the messenger sent by presence. So he's saying God sends us messengers. And I don't actually agree with that. I think we're just attracting whatever we're attracting because we're radiating certain things. We hook up with matches to that. I don't feel like God has a checklist and he or she is sending you particular things, but that's also another discussion for another day. And I can get up on a soapbox about that. So I'll try not to. Instead of reacting, we instruct ourselves in the perceptual steps that empower us to respond rather than react. Reaction is, you're a dick. Response is, oh, I'm triggered. Oh, thank you for stepping in front of me and bumping me out of the way of the sink because you are my messenger right now. This is where in Buddhism they say that your biggest enemy is your biggest teacher. The person who's going to teach you the most is the person that you can't stand the most. Okay, the core difference between a reaction and a response is a reaction is unconscious behavior in which our energy is directed out into the world in an attempt to defend ourselves or attack another. Oh, the money's not coming in, so I'm going to freak out and the whole bag lady scenario comes up. So I'm going to attempt to defend myself from that fear by frantically applying for jobs and working on my marketing from a fear-based place, which is not effective. Other times in my life, and I haven't done this in a while, but I would get on to Heath, like he needed to do something about it, as if. A reaction is a drama played out in an effort to sedate and control the cause. So we're trying to smother the messenger with pizza. Done it recently. We're trying to shoot the messenger by scrolling on Facebook or Instagram and just getting lost in social media. We're trying to sedate and control whatever's triggering us. This is when you see activism can really swing into reactions like, I'm going to stop you, I'm going to squash you so that you're not doing the thing that I disagree with, that I'm reacting to. There's social activism that's done from a very different place that's not aggressive and reactionary. Okay, so there's some real subtle differences there. Subtle and not so subtle. The theme of all reactive behavior is blame and revenge. This is when you see activists acting in the same way that they're mad about the people they're protesting are acting. So they're angry that people are being violent. So then they go out and they get triggered into violence. So looking from the outside, you get confused because you're like, oh my gosh, the protester and the one being protested are doing the same damn thing. So that's kind of interesting. When we react, we do something, quotes, about what we perceive is happening to us. We take an action before we align. And we move, or we quit our job, or we get a divorce out of a knee-jerk reaction. Okay. What we're moving toward, and it's a continuum, you're not going to get it perfect every time. What we're moving toward is response. A response is a conscious choice to contain and constructively internalize. You're containing it. You feel a wave of fear and you don't push it away. You don't think you're trying to get rid of it. You contain it. You actually bring it closer and hold it. The surfacing energy, the energy of the emotion, with the intent of using it to integrate unconsciousness. It's waking you up. It's disturbing you. It's stirring the shit pot. It's aggravating you, and it's good. When I'm working with someone and they start to fall apart, I celebrate. If they have a sense of humor, I let them know that I'm celebrating. If they don't, I keep it to myself. But I'm celebrating when people start to get into that shit between them and their goal, the shit between you and it and your goal. When you slip and fall into that shit pile, I'm very, very happy. The theme of responsive behavior is responsibility, the ability to respond, responsibility. We respond by unconditionally feeling the emotional state unfolding within us without projecting it outward onto other people. That sounds like the meanest thing in the world, right? Like, oh, I'm so happy that your life is falling apart all around you. Yay! Oh my God, you just got fired. That's great. That is awesome. I don't say that for myself, though. I don't say to myself, oh, your money dried up and you haven't made a cent in a month. Yay! Huh. Better start practicing what I preach to a little bit more. I'm not trying to be mean. I'm not. From this point onward, it takes a lot of bravery and courage to do the Shadow Blessings course. It takes a lot of bravery and courage to stick with breath work because of how activating it can be. That's why I encourage you to stay conscious enough with yourself to know if you really do need to take a break or you really do need to slow down. There's nothing wrong with that. You can slow down and not give up. You can take a break. I don't recommend like stopping completely. But if you need to breathe 5 minutes instead of 15 minutes because you know you're going to go too far too fast, he doesn't say this in the book, but we can't all just go blasting through our blocks. Your body needs time to catch up, so honor yourself. Okay, but here's the bad news. because you have joined the Shadow Blessings group, which is an activation in and of itself, because you have opened this book, which is an activation in and of itself, you're going to be awakened and things will start to catch your attention more. It's not that your life is going to shit. It's that you're seeing what's already there. And instead of reacting all the time, you're starting to go, wait a minute. I think this might be that thing he was talking about in the book. Let me explore this differently. How could I see this differently? Let me not even worry about that and just start to take some deep breaths. So certain circumstances will unfold in our daily experience that magnetically attract our attention. If you spot it and you're reacting to it, it's yours. These situations isolate themselves from all other circumstances you experience going through your day because of the emotional trigger. It's your big fat road sign. The emotion is a language that your body has to let you know. Abraham Hicks calls it your emotional guidance system. It's the reason for a daily practice, so that you stay in touch with the language that you have that lets you know there's a messenger standing in front of you, not an asshole. It might be looking like an asshole or acting like an asshole, but it's not. It's a messenger. Okay, maybe it's both. Maybe they are a dick, but they're also a messenger for you. This magnetic pull on our attention occurs because these specific situations are energetically connected to our suppressed past. They're just there to wake you up. That's all it is. It's not personal. And we will continue to react unconsciously to these setups. Somewhere in here he says an upset is a setup. It's actually got several pretty clever wordplay things in here. An upset is a setup for you to wake up. Oh, I made my own. An upset is a setup for you to wake up. Hello. There's a tagline. We need a t-shirt. I'll get that on a cup. An upset is a setup for you to wake up. Write that down. Give me credit, of course. Send people to the website. Mom's got bills to pay. Oh, shit. Okay. But if you'll write it down, you'll stop wasting all your time blaming everybody and everything. My big teacher that still lives here because I can't seem to make him move away constantly blames everything around him for everything, and the government is a big one. The government catches a lot of shit. But he models for me the way I used to live. I used to live like that, always blaming everybody, always fussing about this thing or that thing. Ugh, so exhausting. We will continue to react unconsciously to these setups until we gain the present moment awareness to behave consciously and responsibly. It's therefore vital to keep in the forefront of our awareness how suppressed memories surface. Not as stories and images in our mental body, but as unfolding circumstances in the ways people behave that upset us. Okay, so our task for the week is to write that down. An upset is a setup to wake up, because that's so fucking clever. But the mantra is actually, I recognize my reflections and projections. Write that somewhere. I recognize my reflections and projections. You don't have to use these exact words. If that is not like helpful, think of something that works for you. Watch the Life as a Mirror video, both of them. And you can even put a little tiny mirror in your workspace to help you remember that the jackass that comes in your cubicle and causes you stress is your mirror. That person is your mirror in that moment to show you, to help poke you and wake you up. And the world needs us to wake up, and to wake up fairly quickly. We don't shoot the messenger anymore. We're not going to shoot the older white men in front of us, even when we're tempted to. They are such jerks. They are. Yes, it's a trigger. Yes, I'm projecting. I get it. Okay. So that's our task for the week, is to identify our messengers, to feel the emotion that comes with it, and to do nothing more. Don't analyze it. Don't get lost in the story of it. You'll hear the story of it, but don't get lost in there. Don't wander into the labyrinth of storytelling, and don't ask the question, where did this come from? Why am I reacting like this? Don't worry about it. If you need to know why, you'll know why. Your job is to breathe into the feeling. You can do a few circular breaths. Oh my God, this old white guy just cut me off in traffic. You can do a few circular breaths. Don't do a lot while you're driving, of course. But just take deep breaths. Just breathe. Breathe. Breathe, don't blame. We're just full of wordplay today, among other things. Okay, so that's your job. Identify the messenger, identify the emotion, and breathe, holding that space. And don't stop until the energy shifts. Betty, yes, it is birth breathing. You are Lamassing your own rebirth every day. Every day you are born and you die, and you're born and you die, and you're born and you die. Someone, who was it? Eckhart Tolle, House Cookies, described Buddhism not as lifetime after lifetime, but our own lifetime after lifetime in this life, right here and right now, that we breathe through, and we do birth ourselves. That's a great way to look at it. In a way, and this is true, you are dying to your identity. You're dying to your worldview that old white men are jerks. All of them. Because I do generalize that a lot, and I don't like them a lot, really. So I'm dying. There's a death there, a death to a long cherished worldview with lots and lots of evidence that old white men are assholes. So that has to die so the other part can be reborn, and the breath is breathing life into that new way of being. So good. We are required to feel the triggering, to feel the emotion without attempting to manipulate what we are feeling so we feel better. You will feel better if you don't try to feel better. You will. If you sit and breathe, it will transform. It will do what it needs to do. and you will feel better. But the minute you try to feel better, the hand that reaches for the feather creates the breeze that pushes it away. You're lost. When you feel yourself reaching for feeling better, just stop and breathe into that. Breathe into the fear that that emotion's going to kill you. Breathe into the old belief that you need to do something. You need to tinker with the emotion that's arising. Just let that, breathe into that. Breathe into what's present. If you're dealing with something along like my old white men thing, sorry about all the racket. I thought I turned this off. Obviously I didn't. Breathe into the resistance. Breathe into the fact that you don't want to deal with it today. Breathe in that you don't want to deal with the emotion. Breathe there. Breathe with what is present. Don't lie to yourself. If you try to skip over your resistance, then you're in that stage of, well, I want to get through this emotion so that I can feel better, so that I don't have this trigger anymore. Stop it. Stop it. We don't attempt to manipulate what is true. We don't twist the truth. We let the truth of the moment set us free through our breath. Thank you, Jesus. Did Jesus say that, or was it Shakespeare? Did you know a lot of people attribute Shakespeare quotes to the Bible? It's so funny. Okay. This skill is essential because it enables us to tell the difference between what's actually happening and what's a reflected memory and a piece of your unconsciousness up waiting to be made conscious so that it can do whatever it needs to do. So it involves a great deal of trust. You've got to start trusting that your emotions are there for a reason. You've got to start trusting that all you need is your breath work. Deep breathing, consciousness is all you need. We've been sold a lot of products and courses and things like that that are designed to keep us buying products and courses. When you become conscious, you pick a course because it would be fun to learn it. You choose your products based on what feels in alignment with your own system. You aren't buying a product because Estee Lauder says if you have lines on your face, you're doomed to a life of misery and loneliness. You know, let's wake up. Let's wake up to social advertising. Let's wake up to internet marketing. Let's just wake the fuck up. How about that? Wake the fuck up. That's the fortune cookie for today. Crack. Oh, mine says wake the fuck up. In bed. Aren't we supposed to add that after fortune cookie stuff? So, oh my God, I've been talking for 47 minutes. Wow, what a chatterbox. All right, that's all I have for week 2. Let me know how you're doing. Let me know if you're running into problems. If you haven't been able to download the breath prompts, the little 5-minute MP3s, let me know. Message me and send me your email, and I'll try to email them to you. You can download them on your phone. You can just click on the link that I left in the post. If you can't find the post, go to the search bar in the group, enter the word presence, and it will bring up everything I've posted about the presence process. And remember that link is, I think, in the comments of that post. So you'll need to open the post and then look in the links, I think. If you can't find it, try harder. It's there. If you can't download it, try to download it onto your phone so you have it with you. So you can run in the bathroom and do 5 minutes of breathing if you need to. Or maybe to your car. If you run into the bathroom and you start breathing funny, that bug. Somebody might come in and think you're in some sort of distress. Nobody wants 911 called on them when they're just in the bathroom trying to shift an old emotion. Okay, I'll talk to you next Wednesday, but I'll be here in the group for you. Please let other people know. Just because we've started week 2 doesn't mean other people can't benefit from what we talk about, and they can also catch up. So let your friends know, let your family know, let everybody know that could possibly benefit from that. So I'm not kidding. Like, we really do have to start taking personal responsibility for ourselves, because our country is being destroyed, in my opinion. That's my story, by reactionary forces. So there you go. Spread the word. I'll talk to you next week. And I'm just going to block the camera here because Facebook loves to cut off those last 30 seconds. All right. I'll talk to you later. Bye.